you've heard this question before, but as you know, when the lottery system was originally approved by Florida voters, it was the understanding that 50% of the proceeds would go to the funding of education. This hasn't happened, as the Florida legislature has consistently diverted funds from the account for the other parts of the budget. How would you fight to ensure that these funds are guaranteed for education?
Yeah, again, I think you will find a lot of symmetry among us when it comes to this. The lottery dollars ought to do what they were intended to do, which was to expand the education budget in this state. We've had the threat of the public, not only have the lottery dollars not gone toward public education, we now have public dollars being extracted from the public system and going to stand up for-profit institutions, public institutions that provide increase in profitability for the bottom line of the operators, which, by the way, based on the data, those schools don't perform any better than the public school system, and in many cases, worse and without accountability. They're not measured to the same standard that the public school system is. One, we need to do away with the grading of the public school system, and I have to tell you why, because it doesn't tell us what our kids know or what our teachers are doing. It only exists to remove public confidence from the public system, because many on the right don't believe in the public education system, which is why they have been ferreting public dollars away and standing up not only these for-profit institutions, but now the construction of these for-profit making institutions. And that's not to say we don't have accountability in the system, y'all. When I was matriculating through the public system in this state, we got 9 weeks tests. We practically had tests every week. It felt like, certainly in my vocabulary in English classes, right? And then at 9 weeks we had a grade, and at half point in the semester we had a grade. And then at the end of the year, if you were passing muster, you were accelerated on to the next grade. If you were not, you were retained. And now we've got these folks taking tests where our kids are on anxiety medication because they are terrified of what these tests foretell of their futures. And holding teachers accountable for every ill in society. Not only are the teachers, they're now expected to be the security guards. And our school system, it's a sham, it's a shame. We need to fund public education, pay teachers more, and make sure that accountability is where it needs to be, and that's not on I-6
Florida public schools have suffered because of the love the Republican legislature has with charter schools and their financial contribution to Republican office holders. Yet results show that charter schools' results mimic or many times are below those of public schools. However, charter schools are not responsible to local school boards and exist at the pleasure of the legislature. Will you pledge to support our public education system in Florida?
I will. I've often heard for-profit charter schools being called schools without rules. And that really summarizes the problem. Public education, you know, we haven't had a governor in 20 plus years who has been a champion for public education. I often say, you know, 90% of the students in this state go to public school. And yet 90% of the conversation in Tallahassee has been about everything but public education. You know, it starts with a real commitment. And so first, absolutely, I would not be a fan or a supporter of diverting resources to for-profit charter schools. That doesn't make sense. That's not what voters want. I am a believer in supporting public education. You know, one of the things we've got to do is not just support early childhood education, not just support K through 12, but one of the most powerful resources in public education we have in this state is our state or community college system. 28 schools all across Florida who are doing incredible work to train the next workforce of the future. And so what I have said is if we've got a state that is essentially back of the pack in so many economic measurements, that is not creating the types of jobs that are supporting families, then we got to do something big. We got to do something bold. We got to have the courage to go up there to Tallahassee and change that. I have come out with a plan for free community college and trade school that seeks to change that, modeled after the state of Tennessee, actually passed by a Republican governor and a Republican legislature. These are the types of ideas in public education that are working in other states and that we believe can work here in Florida.
Thank you. What is your position on increasing reliance on solar energy? Opponents, as we said before, the power companies argue that installation costs are high and solar energy only benefits the rich. The proponents argue that there are rebates to defray the cost of installation and the long-term energy savings justify the installation expenses.
Thank you. Great question. And I think we all kind of agree up here, but you know, as Andy said, listen, we're the Sunshine State. We are not the partly cloudy state, okay? And we understand the great economic opportunities for the state of Florida to really own this business of solar energy. Think about this. The Saudi Arabians have the largest fossil fuel supply in the world. And they are investing billions of dollars in solar energy because they don't believe there's a future in fossil fuel. The fact of the matter is, the state of Florida, we need to invest in solar energy. We need to come up with incentives for people to make sure that they will get along and begin to have solar panels. We need to encourage, aggressively encourage FP&L to make sure they begin doing the right thing and allow all of our citizens, our businesses, everybody, residents, to begin adapting to solar energy. Now, I can tell you this. As someone who is not accepting sugar money, I'm also not accepting money from FP&L. And you know why? Because I believe he who pays the piper picks the tunes, okay? And I understand that the state of Florida, in order for us to move forward and become a 21st century economy, we need to be an economy based on renewable fuels. And solar energy is a tremendous opportunity for us. So if I'm honored to be governor, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we push forward to make us the real Sunshine State, that we're utilizing solar energy is the future. Going back in time and trying to be reliant on fossil fuels is a little bit like saying we're going to go into the horse and buggy business, okay? It makes no sense at all. So that's my commitment to the state of Florida.
Thank you. Given the current events to deregulate EPA efforts by the Trump administration, what will you do to keep our water safe to drink and our air safe to breathe?
We first need to get rid of the EPA secretary. I mean, what a disaster. A total disaster. I mean, this is, all right, that wasn't the question. That has to be part of the solution. So there's some things we can do, obviously, here in the state of Florida. The EPA, we need to put as much pressure on them as we can from the state of Florida. But right here in the state of Florida, we've handed over the keys of regulation to the industries themselves. Not only that, let's take, for instance, the growth and development, the building, construction industry. In this state, all over this state, particularly north of Lake Okeechobee, we've got significant redevelopment and development that's happening, where you've got these nitrate levels that are flowing into the ground and into our groundwater system that ultimately ends up in Lake Okeechobee, along with some other contributors, including sugar, that had caused, as you all know, algae blooms out of the east and the west side of this state of guacamole content, right? That's not the kind of state that people want to come visit and retire to. So we've got to make sure that we put the protection back into the Environmental Protection Agency and make sure that they're doing the job that is important to preserving life, ecology, both of sea life and of human life, and making sure that we put the interests of everyday people above that of corporate interest. And unfortunately, we've had a significant slide of that, not only in this sector, but in so many other sectors. I'm proud that in the city of Tallahassee, we made an important investment. We sit above the Floridan Aquifer, a major tributary to the clean water bodies of this state. And we have a farm there where we treat the water near to tertiary level to ensure that the water that enters our ground does not further pollute and corrode what is a natural water body. When we lose our water, y'all, that's the beginning of the end of our existence, right? And that's the end of my time, so I'll stop.
Mr. King, during your campaign for governor, will you accept campaign donations from the NRA?
That wouldn't be a popular answer, would it?
I was just going to say, if any of them say yes,
that's right. Get them out of the room quickly. No, you can find a picture on our website with a no NRA money. You know, this is an incredibly important issue of our times. Just yesterday in Texas, we watched what I believe was the 22nd school shooting this year. You know, I'm from Orlando. And if any of you have Central Florida roots, you know that the Pulse nightclub, we're almost to our 2nd anniversary. We couldn't have imagined, right, that so many tragedies would happen since then till today. And then we had Parkland during this campaign, during this race. And I think I speak for all 3 of us when I say that the voices from South Florida and from Parkland and from Broward County have given us and should give all of us courage to stand up to the NRA and to fight back on policies that don't make sense. From my very first speech for governor, I said that I would support, fight for, advocate, and do everything in my power to pass a ban on assault weapons in the Sunshine State. This is a hard issue. It's a tough issue, but it's an important issue. There is so much more we can do. And the failure of leadership and the tactic of the Republican Party is to look at each new tragedy and suggest, well, if you had had that law in place, that wasn't an assault weapon. Or they had that gun legally. Or a universal background check wouldn't have caught that. We can't act and we can't allow their arguments to win the day. There are so many things we can do to promote gun safety in the state of Florida, like banning assault weapons, like passing universal background checks, like passing Medicaid expansion, which is the biggest provider of mental health care services of anything we could do. Those are the types of policies that move the dial on gun safety.
Thank you. As a Democratic governor, how will you work with the legislature that will possibly be again controlled by Republicans?
Great question. Listen, we all hope this blue wave, this blue tsunami takes over, okay? And we've seen some very encouraging results. So the question is, will there be more Democrats in Tallahassee? I'm pretty confident to say yes. Will we win control of the Senate and the House? Who knows? Can't count on it, that's for sure. My life journey in my life, when I started from nothing, I worked with Republicans and Democrats. I never asked anyone, are you a Republican or you're a Democrat? We just did things. And I know that, having an economic message and understanding that we want to create a 21st century economy, I don't know many Republicans that don't like to bring great business to Florida, okay? And I'm hoping and counting on the fact that we will have a tremendous amount of support that way. I also believe the power of the people is going to be behind us, the Democrats, going forward. And I think that the one thing I know about a lot of these folks that are up there for part-time of the year, they work 60 days a year, and one of the most important things for them are their jobs. So they're going to pretty much do anything they can to maintain their jobs going forward. But we know that the power of the governor isn't just about the veto power, isn't just about their ability to push, but it's their ability to lead. And being a great leader has its ability to move people in the right direction, to push them forward. I know the incoming Speaker of the House. His name is Jose Oliva. Actually, Jose is a friend of mine. And as I said to Jose, I said, Jose, if I'm honored to be governor, you're going to be the Speaker of the House. The one thing I know is you're not going to get everything you want. And I'm not going to get everything I want. But I know what we're going to get. We're going to get what we need to be able to move the state forward. And that's what I plan to do if I'm governor. Thank you.
Thank you.